welcome to Ars Libri, an everyman's journey through Western literature, where we explore the literary arts book by book, reading, retelling, and reclaiming our rich heritage. The Nibelungenlied is a Germanic epic. Some people call it the German Iliad. It was written in the 1200s, the early 1200s, and is based on oral stories from the 400s and 500s AD. The way that I understand how this developed is that the first major Germanic epic is the Poetic Edda, which was written in the 900s, but it involves stories from before that time. In the Poetic Edda, there are elements of something that later is called the Volsungasaga, or the Volsungasaga, the saga of the Volsungs. But the saga of the Volsungs was written in the 1200s, right around the same time as the Nibelungenlied. So the Nibelungenlied is one of the first major Germanic epics in this sense. After this, the next major epic that follows these tales is Richard Wagner's 1800s Tale of the Nibelungs, or the Rheingold. It's a 3-part series, or it might be 4 parts, I can't remember. After that, there's Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, which draws elements from this as well. So we're talking about Germanic and Nordic legends.
Would you want to throw Beowulf in there?
Yeah, Beowulf is included as well.
Yeah, so do you know if it was oral tradition or written down, or the time frame?
It starts off as oral and then turns into written. I don't know when that was written.
900s or something?
I'm not sure.
That's what's in my head. Okay.
I'm not sure. Some brief comments on the Nibelungenlied are that it is a very Germanic epic. It contrasts with the French and English epics during this time. And I'm talking about the Arthurian tales, the romances of high chivalry, courtly love, deeds of honor and valor among knights seeking glory and fame for themselves. The Nibelungenlied is exactly like that. It's a tale of knights, kings, queens, damsels, dragons, gold, dwarves, jealousy, loyalty, oaths, tournaments, feasts, all these sorts of things. But it's very, very, very Germanic. Some of the ways that this comes about is a certain fatalism that actually permeates the whole story. People are fated to go towards their doom, and they know it sometimes. They know it through prophecy, they know it through omens, but they don't avoid it. They face it tragically, as though they have to. When people die, it's not just 1 or 2. In this story, it's the whole mass of people. The kingdom, the glory of it all that's built up throughout the story, the beauty of it, is all just smashed. It's a tragedy. The Nibelungenlied is a true tragedy, unlike the tales of Arthur. Now, Arthur dies. He dies through treachery, but it's not as treacherous as it could be. It's not as much of a tragedy as it could be. Arthur dies, and he has a faithful knight there with him, and he's spirited away kind of by the Lady of the Lake, maybe to arise again one day in the future. And the kingdom that Arthur left behind is still a kingdom. Mm-hmm. And there are still people, and there are still knights. Lancelot still lives. He goes to be a friar for a while. And then Guinevere still lives. But in the Germanic epic, the Nibelungenlied, it is actual, brutal, apocalyptic, Armageddon-style tragedy.
Yeah, the Germans are thorough.
Yes.
In everything they do.
Yes, and it's grim. There's a level of grimness to it. But there's joy also within the story. There's beauty, there's chivalry, there's romance, there's celebration and feasting and gifts and hugging and kissing. But the whole trajectory of this thing, there's a foreboding element to it, as though we are doomed to die and we know it, and we must go forward toward it. We can't avoid it. So what we'll do is outline the story really quickly and then get into it and go not chapter by chapter, but close enough to it to tell the story. When there's spoilers, we'll let you know. First, let's talk about the main 5 characters of this tale. Siegfried, Gunther, Kriemhild, Brunhild, and Hagen. Siegfried is a legendary hero in Germanic and Nordic tales. He shows up in almost every single tale. Just like in Russian tales, there's Ivan Tsarevich, and he shows up again and again. So also in Germanic and Nordic tales, there's Siegfried. He shows up in many roles, but he's usually the hero of the tale. He shows up in Wagner's Ring Cycle, and he's the hero there. So also he's the hero here. It's commonly known that in all the stories, he killed a dragon. He killed the dragon Fafnir, and he bathed in Fafnir's blood. And we'll talk more about that later. He also overcame the Nibelungs, a bunch of dwarves, a whole legion of dwarves who have this Nibelungen hoard, a special treasure that's also cursed. And that falls to Siegfried when he conquers them. So now he has this cursed treasure.
He's also massively wealthy.
Because of it.
Because.
Gunther is also named Gundahar or Gunnar. He's the king of the Burgundians, and he was a real king of the Burgundians in the 400s AD. Gunther, King Gunther of the Burgundians, marries Brunhild. Brunhild, or Brunhilda, was a warrior queen of Iceland with special powers. She was very strong. And she was subdued by Siegfried and then married Gunther. Brunhild shows up in many tales as well. In Richard Wagner's Ring Cycle, I think Siegfried and Brunhild actually fall in love. So I can't remember the exact names of the characters, but Brunhild was a Valkyrie in that story. And then she does something and helps out one of the humans, and she has a role that's different. It's similar to, but different. So she's special, powerful in that one too, but it's different. But it's still Brunhild. Then there's Kriemhild. Kriemhild, also named Gudrun. Kriemhild is a princess. She's the sister of King Gunther, and she marries Siegfried. And the story of the Nibelungenlied, it's mostly driven by Kriemhild, at least the second half. There's two parts to the story, and Kriemhild is the main driver of that second half as she seeks vengeance for her husband. The last figure is a man named Hagen. Hagen is a warrior. He's the half-brother of Gunther. He, spoiler alert, he murders Siegfried. He stabs him in the back. Hagen also drives the second part of the story. So the first part of the story is mainly about Siegfried finding Kriemhild, and then Siegfried helping Gunther get Brunhild as a wife, and then the tragedy that befalls Siegfried after that. And then the second part of the story is Kriemhild seeking vengeance and Hagen also fighting. So let me tell the two parts in brief, which I'm already starting to do. The poem, it is a poem by the way, is in two parts. The first part starts with Prince Siegfried coming to Worms to acquire the hand of the Burgundian princess Kriemhild from her brother King Gunther. Gunther agrees to let Siegfried marry Kriemhild if Siegfried can help Gunther get Brunhild as a wife. So he has to help Gunther get Brunhild, and then Gunther will give Siegfried Kriemhild. Siegfried does this and marries Kriemhild. However, Brunhild and Kriemhild become rivals, and this leads to a tragedy that befalls Siegfried at the hands of Hagen. So that's the first part, and it ends in tragedy, the first part. In the second part of the story, Kriemhild is now a widow, and she's married off to King Etzel of the Hungarians. Some people think it's the Huns, but you saw that it's not the Huns, but the Hungarians, right?
Yeah, I was confused when I first read it because he was referred to as the king of the Huns.
Mm-hmm.
So historically, people have conflated the two, mixed them up, but he was not a Hun as in Attila. He was a Hun as in Hungarian. Okay. So I think it even says that he ruled in Vienna. Mm-hmm. So that definitely, he's not Mongolian in that sense.
Yeah, okay. So she goes and marries King Etzel, and we'll talk about why. But she eventually, after I think 7 years, she invites her brother, King Gunther, and his court to come visit them in King Etzel's kingdom. And her intention is to take vengeance upon these people for what happened to her husband. And her vengeance results in apocalyptic Armageddon, nuclear fallout levels of tragedy for all of the Burgundians and most of King Etzel's kingdom. Not all of King Etzel though, but most. So let's walk through the story. Each chapter is called an adventure. So the first adventure, the second adventure, and there's 39 of them. The first 19 are the first part. and chapter 20 through 39 comprise the second part. So in the first adventure, Kriemhild has a dream. Kriemhild is presented as the Princess of Burgundy, and she's renowned for her beauty and virtue, that's important. She has 3 brothers, King Gunther, Gernot, and Giselher. Kriemhild is pursued by many suitors, but she turns them all away. She has a dream one night where she nurtures a beautiful falcon, and it's killed by 2 eagles. And she tells this dream to her mother, the queen, Ute, who says that the falcon is your husband and he will lose his life, he will die. Unless protected by divine intervention, he's going to die. And then Kriemhild says, I'm never going to get married.
Yeah, there's a part where she says, why are you talking to me about a man, mother? I want to live my life without a man's love. I want to stay carefree until I die, without the pain that a man's love will surely bring. And her mother, Yuta, replies, if you ever want to be truly happy, then that can only happen with the love of a man. And as you read the story, you learn they're both right. She's only happy. That's true for women, though. That is where happiness is found. However, I think with Kriemhild, even much more forcefully than most women, it really was the love of her husband, because many women can be satisfied with, love of children, or at least, if they lose their husband, they can be comforted by these things. Not Kriemhild.
Right.
Her entire world was centered around Siegfried forever.
He was the most amazing warrior by far of this era in the Germanic world. Absolutely. He was the wealthiest, the most powerful, the most strong, the most renowned, the most accomplished. I could see why she
cared for nothing else. Yeah.
The second adventure, Siegfried. He is a prince. He's the son of King Sigmund and Queen Sigelind, and they live in the castle Xanten by the Rhine River. He's a bold, honorable man. He's exceptionally promising. He's growing up. He's becoming a young man. He's already renowned for his strength and prowess, his stature, his honor, his physical beauty. He has the admiration of all. Siegfried reaches the age to bear arms, and he starts thinking of courtly love and being trained for knighthood. And his parents hold a grand festival to celebrate his knighting. It's a magnificent festival, and this is an important part of the story. Every time there is an opportunity for courtesy and celebration and festivals, feasts, they do it up way, way, way over the top. There's hundreds and hundreds, there's thousands and thousands of knights and squires and ladies that show up. There's so many gifts. There's the wealth of kingdoms being given away as gifts. And it just shows how great and high the Middle Ages Germany was. And it really sets up a bright background, unlike the dark background for the bright gem. It sets up a bright background for the dark center of what happens later. It's a great height that everything is, and when it falls, it's a great fall. There's jousting, there's breaking of lances, there's splintering of shields. Knights are showcasing their skill and valor. Sigmund and Sigelind try to give Siegfried the crown and say, hey, step into your kingdom. And Siegfried doesn't want to. He wants to prove himself as a warrior in his own right and overcome opposition in surrounding lands and establish his dominance before he takes the crown.
Yes, that stuck out to me. There's a sentence where he says, I too am a warrior and can claim a crown. And that word claim was important. It wasn't just inherit. He wasn't just stepping into a throne, he was earning it.
Yeah. The next scene moves to Siegfried determining to woo Kriemhild. He hears of her beauty, and he takes 12 knights, which is a very small amount. Back in those days, the roads weren't clear and safe. You had to travel with a lot of people to show your valor, but also to protect yourself, to show your knightly status, your royal status, but also to fight off evildoers.
As he's deciding this, his family actually, they try to convince Siegfried not to pursue Kriemhild because of her family. They're saying she's got these really big, strong brothers, powerful kings, maybe not, and I think that's just a little foreboding there, a little hint of not the best idea.
That's important. In the story, there are so many little foreboding warnings throughout the entirety. Every single chapter, every turn of events, there's something that warns, don't go do that, it might turn out bad. It's probably going to be bad. When he reaches the kingdom of Burgundy, Hagen, Gunther's main ride-or-die knight, recognizes Siegfried's identity due to his renown and his stately bearing and all the beautiful attire that he is wearing. And he then recounts the legendary deeds of Siegfried. And this is something that the book doesn't talk about. After Siegfried came of age and his parents had a party, he then went out and did all kinds of great deeds. He's always, in every single tale, he's known for having slayed the Nibelung kings and seized their treasure, which is this great Nibelung hoard. He arrived in the land of the Nibelung, at this mythical kingdom of dwarves and giants, and this vast treasure called the Nibelung hoard, and he overcame their kings and their armies, and he defeated even the dwarf Albric, the keeper of the hoard, and Siegfried spared Albric's life, though, in exchange for loyalty, and made him the guard of this treasure, which now belongs to Siegfried. So he overcame these mythical beings, essentially, in this foreign kingdom, and he gained this vast treasure. It's like the Count of Monte Cristo wealth, where it's not just wealth, it's power. It's like trillions of dollars or something. Plus, it's magical in many ways. In one way, it's cursed. It's fated. Anyone who has this is going to run into problems. Other people are going to come try to kill you for it. But also, there are special artifacts, like a sword called Balmung, and a cloak of invisibility called Tarnhelm. It also makes him strong. And he takes these things and becomes stronger because of them. He also fought Fafnir, the dragon, in this area, and then he bathed in Fafnir's blood. And this dragon's blood apparently made his skin nearly invulnerable, except for one small spot between his shoulders where a leaf fell, unbeknownst to himself, while he was bathing. So he has invulnerability everywhere except one spot on his back. And this is like Achilles from the Greek tales, where his mom, Thetis, dipped him in the river Styx, but she held onto his ankle and the water didn't touch there. So he was vulnerable there in his Achilles heel, which makes you bleed to death. Yeah. Right?
Right.
Which I just learned.
It's called the Achilles tendon, I believe.
Achilles tendon.
Yeah, which if you slice it, yeah, you'll die.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Because you bleed to death.
You bleed out.
That's
and it
crazy.
Happens fast. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's crazy. You should have some kind of armor back there.
Boots.
Yeah, but like a steel toe. You have
Achilles
a steel...
was probably wearing sandals. I mean...
You got to get some greaves. The greaves that the Greeks wore were on their shins, like soccer guard pad things, except they were metal. Anyway, the thing about this, though, he went out as a young man wanting to prove himself, and he went and killed a dragon. Fafnir, this famous dragon, bathed in his blood, became invulnerable except for one spot. Then he killed the Nibelungs, most of them, not all of them, and their kings, and he gained their vast treasure and a sword called Balmung, which is fiery and amazing and does great deeds in and of itself, and this invisible cloak, which also makes him strong. This is high adventure. This is amazing. And I mentioned to you already, the Balmung sword shows up in video games. I used to play Final Fantasy when I was younger, and there's the Balmung sword in those games. So people reuse these sorts of images all the time. This imagery from Greek myths, from German myths. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think this story would probably be better suited to a video game than like a movie or something, because there's so many different winding trails and avenues that you could go down and explore in the story itself.
Yeah. Back to Siegfried being in Burgundy. This was Gunther recounting what happened in Siegfried's past, why he's such a great knight. When Siegfried's in Burgundy, he participates in all the courtly activities. He excels in the tournaments. He earns the admiration of all, especially the ladies, but also the knights. And Kriemhild secretly admires him from afar, watching from her window. And Siegfried is deeply in love with her, but he stays there for a full year and doesn't see her. Doesn't see her once. This is how hidden the gem is.
Yes, I had a thought about that. Even glimpsing a beautiful woman was a privilege. And then getting to talk to her or to touch her hand was one of the greatest honors. And let's compare that to today. When we've got a flesh feast. You know, and it's like everywhere you turn, you're bombarded with like the full bodies of women, much less a smiling face, you know.
There's no mystery. There's no adventure.
No nobility or
nothing
grandeur.
to discover, nothing to learn.
It's all there.
Nothing interesting that you don't know that could be figured out later. It's all known right off the bat. from the start.
Right. And I think also, though, they keep praising in the story her virtue. Kriemhild's virtue is a big theme. Yeah, it was her virtue that was praised throughout the book. And that was enough to hear of her beauty and of her virtue for him to want her for a wife.
Yeah.
And her the same. You know, she knew of his greatness and his prowess and his also beauty. And each of them fell in love with the other on reputation alone.
Wow. Yeah. The Bible says, don't praise yourself. Let another man praise you. Let another man praise your work. Don't praise yourself. And that's what people did. They praised her to him. Her virtue, that was enough for him to fall in love with this woman. And vice versa. She admired him from afar. While he was there for that year, Siegfried fought on behalf of King Gunther. He entered into his service, even though Siegfried himself was a prince. He's not some lowly knight. In fact, he has more prowess and reputation and achievement than any other knight in this whole world at this point. Because he killed a dragon and he's invincible in his skin except for one spot. I mean, he's basically Achilles, except he's not arrogant.
Yeah, that is something. Siegfried shows good character throughout this whole book. I think he's the only one who does.
King Gunther's kingdom of Burgundy is beset by two kings from the Saxons, and he's in dire straits. Siegfried offers his services to Gunther and says, let me lead your knights and go fight these guys, and he does. And Siegfried scores a resounding victory. He captures the kings that came to attack them, defeats all of these people, I think it was a few thousand Burgundians, against 30,000 Saxons, and he defeats them. And this causes Siegfried to return in extremely high praise among everybody. He saved their kingdom. Not Hagen, not Gunther. Siegfried did it, and Kriemhild now begins to love him because of his prowess and his reputation.
Yeah, I think what's neat about that episode there is he brings back the kings. I think one might be dead and one wounded or something. But what's amazing is how they're treated. Like, these are the enemies that they've just fought, and they are treated with honor and dignity. Like, as prisoners of an enemy king, they are treated as kings. Which they're
treated as kings.
Yeah.
You treat the man, but the Romans did this. This happened for a long time in history. In Western history, you would treat the man according to his status, his rank, his office. Hannibal fought against the Romans. Scipio Africanus was the general for Rome. Hannibal was the general for the Carthaginians. And after the battle, or after the war, those two generals met, I think, in Asia Minor somewhere, some other king's court. They were both invited for different reasons to come there. And they both met, and they both spoke courteous words to each other when they met. Even though they spent many years devastating each other's countries and slaughtering each other's countrymen, but they were both generals. And even though they might be political and military enemies, they weren't personal enemies. And they both respected the other man's rank and status. And if you kill another king, if you're a king and you kill another king, you commit regicide. You're destroying that office, which basically means the same can be done to you. So you have respect to the man, to the office, to the status.
Yes, that happens in the Bible also. I think in Jeremiah, there's a king, I think Jehoiakim, not Jehoiakim, but he's taken prisoner. And then eventually this heathen king, maybe Persian or Babylonian, takes him out of prison, lets him eat with him at his table, and gives him an allowance, and he's treated like that until the day he dies. So he was a prisoner, but he was a king.
He was a king.
And it was recognized.
After this, Siegfried is finally allowed to view Kriemhild. She is permitted to come forward, or she's asked to come forward, in the celebration of this military victory, and she graces the celebration with her presence. She and her ladies come, and he's thinking at first he was going to leave because he's been there a year, he hasn't seen her, and then she finally comes forward, and Siegfried is captivated by her beauty. She met his expectations. The idea of her in his mind is exactly how she was. In fact, she was more beautiful, and she was allowed to greet him and even give him a kiss for his thanks, and now they are wanting to get married. Gunther's uneasy about this because Siegfried's fame is reaching such high levels that he's powerful enough to draw knights toward him and perhaps threaten the kingdom itself if he wanted to. He doesn't want to, but if he wanted to. And Hagen is suspicious about these things in the book. He seems to know of trouble on the horizon. However, they can't get married yet because Gunther hasn't given his permission. And I think the reason why he didn't do so is because he himself wasn't married yet, and he wanted Brunhild to be his bride. Brunhild in this story was the queen of Isenland, or Iceland. And she was a formidable queen. She was extraordinarily beautiful and strong. Her challenge to everyone who wanted to be her husband was, you have to beat me in 3 contests. You have to throw a stone, you have to leap, and you have to leap farther than the stone, and you have to hurl a shaft. And all of that has to be beyond my strength too. You have to throw the stone further than me. Everybody who tried failed, and she had them killed. And Gunther knew he couldn't achieve this. And he was kind of distraught about it. And so he came to Siegfried to ask help. And he said, look, if you help me overcome this woman and defeat her, then I will grant you to marry Kriemhild. And so Siegfried said, done, let's do it. So they got together, and they spent a lot of time getting their clothes together, and they showed up to Iceland looking fresh.
Colors popped.
The colors popped. They were ready. They were all iced out. Every time, though, that some of these people, these knights or kings, travel from one place to another, it's a big deal in how they look, and who comes, and how many people come, in the armor that they wear, in the manner of their bearing as they approach the place, how they're met, how they're courteously greeted. There's a lot of this courtesy and etiquette and mannerisms that are in the book that don't drive the plot forward, but they're there to show you how much rank and distinction and honor and deference were given to all of these different hierarchical levels of people. And it's really important for the decorum of the era, and it's also important because when it all falls apart, you can see how great of a fall it was. It was like a beautiful display of art or something that's just smashed. So they arrive at Brunhild's kingdom in Iceland, and they're greeted by her court. And Gunther is struck by her beauty, by Brunhild's beauty, and declares that he wants to marry her. Brunhild imposes these conditions. You have to beat me in these athletic contests, kind of like Atalanta in the foot race. So Gunther goes through the motions of competing with her, but Siegfried wears Tarnhelm, his invisible cloak, and he is the one that performs the feats. So it looks like Gunther's throwing the stone and jumping and throwing the javelin, but it's actually Siegfried doing these things invisibly, which just shows that Siegfried was the only man who rightfully could have or should have married Brunhild.
Right.
Gunther was doing it through a deception. The other deception, which is important also, is that I said a second ago that appearances mattered. What kind of clothing you wore, the horse, how the horse was trimmed out, how your boat was trimmed out as you showed up. What mattered too was that Siegfried was presented as the vassal of King Gunther. And that's what Brunhild thought. Brunhild thought, oh, this isn't just some guy, this is a great king, and he's got all these vassals, and he doesn't have his other king friend here with him. So that's what she thinks. She thinks Siegfried is just some vassal. Well, Brunhild is defeated. She says, Gunther, okay, you bested me, I concede defeat. She acknowledges Gunther and agrees to marry him, but she's unaware of Siegfried's role. Siegfried does another deception. He knows now that King Gunther has to present himself as a great king. He didn't bring as many knights as he should have to this great kingdom of Iceland. So Siegfried goes back to the Nibelung area, gets all of the knights that are vassals to him, and brings them back with him and poses them as the knights of Gunther. So he's boosting Gunther's esteem and prestige in front of Brunhild to make him look like somebody that he's not. Now, as they prepare to come back to the kingdom of Burgundy, Siegfried goes ahead and tells the happy news to everybody there, including Kriemhild, which means they can now get married too. So this is where some of the tragedy begins to happen, because it's the women that do it.
It started with Gunther.
Okay.
He wanted more than he could handle.
You're right, though. But it was the women. All right. When they get back, Brunhild is now married to King Gunther, and Kriemhild gets married to Siegfried. Brunhild has questions about this. Several questions. On the wedding night of Brunhild and Gunther, Brunhild is asking questions of Gunther like, why is your sister betrothed to a mere vassal? Why is she not betrothed to someone worthy of her rank? And he doesn't give her an answer.
Well, he kind of can't, because
in
order for him to explain, he has to uncover the deception that Siegfried pulled over on
So he won't tell her, and she gets angry and says, I'm not going to be your wife until you tell me. And because she's actually stronger than him, she actually overpowers him and binds him up and hangs him on a hook in the room.
On their wedding night.
On their wedding night, right. The next day, Gunther tells Siegfried about this experience, and Siegfried offers to help by using his cloak of invisibility. That night, Siegfried wears the cloak, goes into the room and subdues Brunhild, overpowers her, and he takes her belt and her ring and her girdle from her. I don't know why he did this, but he took those and kept them. And then he left, and Gunther then knew his wife that evening. And the important thing to note here is that it was Gunther that knew his wife that night. Right. He married her, not Siegfried. But Siegfried overpowered her and overcame her strength. And once she was then fully married, she lost her strength.
Right.
She was no longer stronger than Gunther. So then they have great feasts and great celebrations and great tournaments. It sounds like something that you would read from an Arthurian tale. What I do like about the Nibelungenlied, though, is that it's much more descriptive than, let's say, Thomas Malory or something. Way more descriptive, and it was written earlier. But you can read it, and it reads well. It reads easily, and it's descriptive of the flowers and the trees and the atmosphere and the feeling in the air. It's quite nice. Siegfried and Kriemhild are married now, and then they return to Siegfried's kingdom. Kriemhild's brother, Gunther, gives her a great retinue of ladies-in-waiting and treasure and gifts, and even soldiers to go with her. But she asks Hagen to come with her, and he angrily refuses. This is Gunther's Germanness coming out. He's not just like, no, my lady, my loyalty is here. He's like, how dare you ask me this? I am loyal to this. He shows that he doesn't like what's going on. He shows that every opportunity, he shows that he's upset with this. And he angrily refuses to be a knight that follows Kriemhild. He wants to stay in Burgundy. Siegfried and Kriemhild go to his kingdom, and they are received with great fine celebrations. And they stay there for 10 years. And they have a child together, Siegfried's heir, a son. And Siegfried grows his kingdom, he grows his wealth, he increases his lands and power, and they get on well. Now 10 years go by, and after that, Brunhild, Gunther's wife, is troubled by the fact that Siegfried, who owes homage to Gunther as his vassal, which has never been explained to her, hasn't shown service or visited the court of Burgundy in 10 years, as a vassal ought to do.
Right, no taxes, no dues, no visits,
right.
Nothing.
And she resents Kriemhild also because of her haughty demeanor. Kriemhild thinks that she's somebody. Mm-hmm. You're just married to a vassal. When in reality, Siegfried is the most renowned warrior in all of the Germanic area at this time, far beyond her husband, and his kingdom is just more powerful than her husband's. It's just true, but Brunhild doesn't know that.
Right, and she sits there and simmers on this for a decade.
10 years.
She cannot let this go.
Yep. So she says, we should invite them to come to a feast in our kingdom, hoping to reassert her status and see them again.
Yeah, so it is all her doing. Like, she has to kind of persuade Gunther to do this. Mm-hmm. And her purpose was not friendly.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying it's the women's fault? Because the men are just chill. They're just like, hey, we did our thing, and now we're in our...
No, it happens over and over. Brunhild and Kriemhild, they can't let it go.
They can't.
And I think that's the biggest fault of the women here. Mm. And that's a trait of all women. Women do tend to hold a grudge. Women tend to be bitter. They can't let it go. Man. Even though the men around them, they try to convince
10
them.
years go by.
Yes.
And this woman is like, do you remember that time?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the man's like,
Right.
It's been 10 years. Can't we live in peace?
Right.
No. You better call him over here. Mm-hmm. He never comes around anymore. You know, he owes you that one time. So they come. Siegfried and Kriemhild, they're happy. Sigmund, the father of Siegfried, also comes. And there's a lot of foreboding in their coming. Every time there's travel, there's great meetings of courtesy, jousting, tournaments, celebration, and there's also foreboding throughout the whole story. It's almost like when you're reading the story, you can see clouds forming on the horizon and they get closer and closer and closer.
Yeah, there's language of, she wasn't angry yet, or she was still pleasantly disposed to the guests. It's like, still?
Yeah. And this was the last time they would ever see, and you're like, oh, okay, what is going on?
They would never return home.
Yeah. They'll never see their son again. Now, this is where the big drama begins. This is chapter 14. Kriemhild and Brunhild are sitting together and they begin comparing their husbands. Kriemhild boasts that Siegfried is so great he could rule all kingdoms because he's been expanding his kingdom. That's what he's been doing the whole time. And this implies that he could rule over Gunther. And Brunhild says that Gunther is a king and is far superior than Siegfried, who's merely a vassal. And in that, Brunhild is mistaken. And this argument intensifies between the two. Kriemhild finally takes offense and says that tomorrow at church, I will enter before you. And there was a rank order here. The highest rank enters first. And so she's asserting her rank, and she's going to do it in front of everybody. So not just a private argument between us. I'm going to do it in front of people.
Yeah, there's a scene like that actually in Pride and Prejudice when all the girls line up and they would enter the house according to seniority. And then Lydia, which is like, no, Jane, I go first. I am a married woman.
It's like, you're 15 and you elope with this loser.
And she goes first.
She does.
It's awful.
And everybody thinks, just stand out of the way. Just let her have her way. Well, at the church the next day, Kriemhild goes to walk in front of her, but Brunhild blocks her path. And of course, this is audacious, bold, brazen activity. Remember, you couldn't even see Kriemhild for a year. And now these women are acting brazenly in public against each other. Brunhild insists that a vassal's wife shouldn't precede a queen. Kriemhild retaliates with a shocking accusation. She says that Siegfried was the first to sleep with Brunhild on their wedding night, not Gunther. And this implies that Brunhild was dishonored. She produces the ring and the girdle that Siegfried took as proof. Now, that's not what happened, but that's what Kriemhild seems to think happened. Now, we don't know why Siegfried gave his wife the ring and girdle of Brunhild, which he took secretly on the wedding night of Brunhild and Gunther, nor do we know why Kriemhild thinks that he slept with her, because that's not what the original story says.
I know, that tortures me. Why does Kriemhild say that? Is it because she believes that's the truth? Or is she just trying to turn the screw in Brunhild a little, turn the knife? And it's never explained.
It's bad. Brunhild's devastated. And this is in front of people too. This is at church. People are watching.
At church?
At church. Yeah. As they're going into the church, but it's in front of the church. Brunhild weeps publicly, and Gunther sees this, and Hagen sees that their queen has been humiliated and dishonored in front of everyone. This is a stain on the kingdom now. It's not just this person, it's not just queen or even monarchy, it's the kingdom has been offended. It's big. Gunther goes and asks Siegfried about this. Of course, they both know what happened, but Siegfried denies it and says, no, I didn't. You were there. We were both there. You know what happened. So Gunther tries to calm the situation because he has to hide the truth of it still too.
Right.
Both of them have to hide it. Brunhild remains humiliated though, and Gunther's men, particularly Hagen, his loyal ride-or-die vassal, start to plot against Siegfried. Hagen has a will and a mind of his own. He begins to drive things more and more at this point. Gunther's not going to seek vengeance, I will, on his behalf. It's kind of like Lancelot and Guinevere or something, where you got the king and the queen. What the king says is one thing, but what the best knight says is another thing. And he's going to drive things and make it happen. That story plays out a little differently, but there's some overlap here in how the characters have decisions and wills of their own. Hagen becomes a driver of the plot here.
Yeah, they do all have different loyalties and strengths like that. Like Giselher, the youngest brother, he just wants to blow the whole thing off.
Yeah.
He's like, look, we like Siegfried, we believe him, let's take him at his word. He's like, we all know women are easily upset. Let's just let this thing blow off.
Yeah.
I wish they would have listened.
Hagen begins to try to talk people into being against Siegfried. For instance, he manipulates Gunther and says that, look, if Siegfried died, that would secure our power and prevent further dishonor to this lady. If Siegfried died, this would clear up the situation. And also, it would save our kingdom because he's so powerful now He is. Everybody knows this except Brunhild, apparently. He's so powerful and wealthy and strong in and of himself that he could easily overcome our kingdom if he wanted to. He doesn't want to, thank goodness, but he could. And if he died, all of these problems could be resolved and Brunhild's honor would be saved.
Yeah, now they have a convenient reason to dispatch him.
Yes. Hagen then moves on this plan because Gunther kind of acknowledges, yeah, that's correct, I guess. And Gunther starts to play a background role here until the end when he's a valiant warrior fighting for his life. But Hagen then manipulates Kriemhild into revealing Siegfried's vulnerability, where he bathed in the dragon's blood and the leaf fell on his back, leaving that spot vulnerable. Now, Hagen comes up with a story. He says, look, we have a military threat from the Saxons, the previously defeated kings who we let go on good condition, who we let go on good conduct. They're coming back now to fight us again. And we have to get our military in order. And he tells this to Kriemhild and says, look, I want to protect Siegfried. Tell me if anywhere he has some vulnerabilities. I need to know so that I can protect him. And she says yes, and tells him about this. And he says, show me where. And she sews a cross on his back, on his tunic, where the spot is. So there's a spot now marked on his back by Kriemhild, who is misled, where his vulnerability is, and it's a cross. Kind of makes Siegfried a martyr almost. Siegfried uses this knowledge to plan revenge on... Hagen uses this knowledge. What he does is he calls off the false war. He says, oh, it's been called off, they're not coming, but let's go hunting instead. So Gunther and Hagen, both, Gunther's in on it, I think at least.
Oh yeah, he knows.
Okay. They invite Siegfried to a hunting trip in the forest, and Hagen says, hey, let's go for a race. Let's race each other. And he knew Siegfried would beat him because Siegfried's faster. So they both race toward this lake or something. Siegfried gets there first. And he won't drink until Gunther comes because it's a king's right to have first drink in his forest and his lakes and things. So Siegfried courteously waits there for the others to show up. Gunther bends down to drink, and then Siegfried bends down to drink. And as he does, Hagen grabs his own weapons and stabs him with a spear in the back. And Siegfried doesn't die right away. He tries to turn and defend himself afterward, but then he just falls to the ground and dies. As they bring the body back to the kingdom, Hagen tries to say, oh, it was robbers that killed him along the way. But everybody knows this is false because Siegfried is the baddest warrior ever. He killed a dragon. He overcame the entire army of the Nibelungs. He led the army of Burgundy against the Saxons, 1,000 against 30,000.
But Hagen was only doing that half-heartedly. It says in the book that he didn't care if people knew. He kind of wanted people to know that he was the one who had killed him because of the great offense. And he even goes so far as to lay Siegfried's body at the door of Kriemhild's bedroom. So that she finds him. And she knows immediately who's done this.
How much evil intention is added to it. He didn't just kill him in fair combat. Like in the Arthurian tales, it would have been, you have dishonored our queen. I challenge you to duel, to joust out there, to fight to the death. And then they go do it in the broad daylight. Hagen comes up with this great story and betrays and tricks and stabs this guy in the back. Won't even face him straight on. And then he lays the body of this guy at his wife's doorstep. Just grim and bitter and angry. And that's the Germanic element. I'm not saying Germans are grim and bitter and angry, but more so than the French and the English. I mean, it's just true. It's just true. The English would and the French would have done this completely differently. Kriemhild mourns him and they go to bury Siegfried. And as they do, they have his body there. And as Gunther comes by, the wounds start to bleed again. And this is a sign that Hagen is the killer.
Yeah, and that was Kriemhild's doing because she had believed, if the murderer walks by the dead body, that was a common belief, not just hers. And so she has all of the warriors walk by. And it's not until Hagen walks by that the wounds bleed. So this news spread everywhere. And Sigmund, Siegfried's father, also heard of this. And he mourned and decided to go home. He asked for Kriemhild to come with him and said, you'll be a queen still. Your son will eventually be the king. You have a place here. You'll have safety and wealth and power.
come with us. She thought about it long and hard because she didn't want to stay where her husband's killer is. And she eventually, though, decided to stay in the Kingdom of Burgundy, mostly because she said she doesn't have family ties in the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Yeah, a son.
Yeah, I know. Who cares?
No biggie.
Right. The last thing she does in chapter 19, this is ending the first part of the book, is she brings back the Nibelungen hoard, which is rightfully hers now, because it was her husband's, and she's his survivor. So she brings this hoard all the way to Worms. Gernot and Giselher lead 800 warriors to go retrieve it. And this treasure was guarded by Albric, but he gives it up to these people who are from Siegfried's wife. But the hoard is cursed, if you'll remember. It brings trouble, it brings death and vengeance and jealousy and envy. And as it comes there, her wealth and power and influence alarm Hagen, and he fears that she could raise an army against them and take vengeance on them. Gunther's bound by an oath not to harm Kriemhild, and he dismisses Hagen's concerns initially. But Hagen convinces Gunther, which he always does. Hagen is driving the plot. He convinces him no wise man should let a woman have this much wealth. It's powerful wealth. It's billions and billions, trillions of dollars. You can fund armies with this. So breaking their oaths, Hagen seizes the treasure from Kriemhild and sinks the whole thing in the Rhine River, knowing he could come use it later, or thinking he could come use it later. And this act enrages Kriemhild and her two brothers Gernot and Giselher, and they condemn Hagen for what he did. That's the end of the first section, the first part. The second part is basically Kriemhild's revenge. The beginning of the second part starts off with King Etzel of the Hungarians in the east sending for Kriemhild's hand in marriage. He has a late wife who passed away. Her name is Helga. She was beautiful, but she passed away, and he's now realizing, I need another wife. And there is a widow who just lost her husband. Maybe she'll come and be my wife. He sends...
I was going to say, again, it's another marriage based on reputation. Mm-hmm. You know, she was still beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, she had to have been like in her 30s at some point, you know, by this time, but she was still widely known as beautiful and virtuous. So he wants to marry her.
Yeah. Now he sends the Margrave of Beckelaren, I think. His name is Rudiger. He's a great man. He has a wonderful family. He's well loved by everybody on all sides. But he is on the side of Etzel, King Etzel. Rudiger comes and brings this message. And he says, Kriemhild, come marry King Etzel. He offers you power over 12 kingdoms, 30 princedoms, Helga's former retinue. And he also says in private, I'll swear loyalty to you. And she asks him that, swear loyalty to me and all your knights, I think, right?
Yeah, that was the only thing that convinced her to go. So all of the other temptations, like power and all these things, weren't enough, because all she cared about was avenging Siegfried.
Yeah.
And so it's not until Rudiger pledges himself and his men,
right,
you know, his power to her, that convinces her to go.
Yeah.
Because she has to have the power.
It's this woman who has death and the horizon on her eyes. That's what she cares about, nothing really at this point. Although she does experience happiness again a little bit for a moment, that's what she's thinking. I'll never love again, I'll never feel joy again, all that. And then she's like, oh wait, kingdoms and princes and knights? Swear loyalty to me and I'll go.
Right.
Because I'm going to use this to take vengeance on Hagen. And that's what Hagen fears. He says, don't let Kriemhild go. If you do, she's going to use Etzel's power to seek revenge against us for Siegfried's murder. And she eventually goes, though. As she goes, there's interesting... So think of the action happening, and in between the action, there's traveling. Whenever one person goes from one place to another. And the travels don't really push the plot forward, but it's just interesting to see the lay of the land, the rivers, the lakes, the lands, the peoples. Kriemhild comes upon a bishop named Bishop Pilgrim, who's actually Kriemhild's uncle, and the townspeople and the warriors are delighted with her, and there's tournaments held in her honor at different places along the way. So it's this big fanfare, this wonderful celebration, the power, the glory of the courts during these days. And King Etzel's court was powerful, but it also had Christian and heathen knights There were Russians, Greeks, Poles, many others that were there. And Etzel kept this grand wedding feast for many, many days. And she realized at that point how powerful she had become just by marrying King Etzel. How many lands she commands, and it's probably more than Siegfried had at his height. Even though Siegfried was the better warrior, he didn't command more than Etzel did. The main point to take away here from her travels and reception and marriage with King Etzel is that she's powerful and everybody loves her over there, and it's wonderful and beautiful, and the Christians and the heathens are getting along.
Right.
Everything is at peace, everybody's happy, everything's being celebrated, there's wealth and power and joy and plenty, and there's beauty. She's meeting people and honoring them with a kiss and with a presentation and with gifts. Rudiger has a daughter and has a wife, and they meet her, and the daughter wants to go be a lady-in-waiting for Kriemhild. And Kriemhild's like, oh yeah, sure. It's just this beautiful time where everybody's getting along. But the whole time, there are some men that show up in this story, in this second part, who begin to speak of forebodings and warnings. Just like when Siegfried and Kriemhild left Burgundy, and Brunhild said, why haven't they come back? Well, Etzel and Kriemhild are together in Etzel's kingdom for 7 years, and eventually Kriemhild says, I haven't seen my family in a long time. It's been 7 years, and I've borne a son now. She bore a son named Ortlib, and he was baptized as a Christian. And it's interesting that Etzel, who's a pagan, was happy about that. He wanted his son to be baptized Christian, although he himself wasn't.
Right, it reminds me of Clovis and Clotilda. I think they were Frankish or something. But just the Christian queen, marrying the pagan king, and he's like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll show up to it. Yeah. He knew more than that, though, because they had services there, churches, many things.
He had Christian knights in his court.
Right. She's known at this point for generosity, and she had many loyal knights to her, but she had lingering resentment for what happened many years ago.
Yeah, it says she had many happy years with Etzel, but that she cried for Siegfried every day.
Every day, yeah. So she asked her husband to send for her Burgundian kinsman to come to the court in Hungary so she could exact her revenge, but she didn't tell her husband why, but that's what she wanted. So King Etzel thinks this is just a joyous meeting. The whole time he thinks that until almost the last couple chapters, he thinks everything's fine. It's a good contrast. This is a good storytelling where you have one part of the cast, of the characters, who think one thing is happening, and another cast, another part of the characters know what's really happening, and they keep looking at each other real quick and trying to act under the table. That's what starts to happen.
But it's also the ones who have guilty consciences that are the suspicious ones.
Yes, that's right.
King Etzel has nothing
whose
to
eyes
fear.
are wandering real quick and looking fast. Yes. Well, the Burgundian court gets the message, and of course Hagen is warning that this is going to end ruinously. But Gunther wants to go anyway and orders a large force, and Hagen says, look, if we're going to go, let's go thousands of elite warriors strong with all of our armor and all of our gear for battle. And they do. So they're coming, but not like joyous people coming to meet. Although that's what they're acting like, but they're not dressed like it. And they bring a warrior called Volker, who is a minstrel. He shows up for the first time, I think, right here. He starts to play a significant role. He's as powerful a warrior as Hagen. Along the way, there are many misgivings and bad signs, ill omens. They come to a river, and there are some river nymphs or maidens that prophesy that none of you are going to return except for the priest here. And Hagen is upset with that, and he tries to throw the priest in the river to kill him, but for some reason he is spirited away to the other side and survives, and then Hagen knows they prophesied truly. They cross the river, and then Hagen slashes all the boats so that no one can return. In other words, fatalism, that we're going to die and we know it, let's go.
Yeah, his actions before that, though, also showed, I think, a desperation. When he's trying to get the boat, he has an interaction with the ferryman. Yeah. And he shows no mercy there. Yeah. And later that comes back to bite them. It's just another of these ill omens that shows this is not going to go well.
Right. And it's not the heroism that faces struggle. It's
Right.
not like, oh, hard times are ahead, let's face it boldly. You can turn around right now. There's nothing driving you forward other than your idea of being fated to go. Like you have to go.
I think guilt really is playing a large part in this. I think it's the guilt driving him.
They meet some trouble along the way and get involved with some battles with Bavarian forces, but then they hush this up. The Burgundians fight some Bavarians, and this is just foreboding ill for their journey. Usually all the travels until now among varying forces were met with joy and courtesy, like knights should, but not this one. They came to Bekelleren, where Rudiger was the Margrave, and they met Gunther and Hagen, met Rudiger, and they gave costly gifts to each other. They had feasts. They feasted the whole army, thousands of knights, and tournaments,
4 days,
and courtesy, and gifts, and kisses, and hugs for days. And Rudiger actually had his daughter marry one of the Burgundian kings.
Gisela.
And he said, let's do this so that we become together. We meet together. This is a great meeting of great families from distant areas. Why don't we bond? And they do. And it just shows, again, it doesn't drive the plot forward, all these feasts and tournaments and well greetings, but it shows what beauty there was, what harmony there was. And then when it falls, it's all the more tragic.
Yeah, Rudiger especially. I feel like he's especially torn between the two camps.
Yes. Yeah.
His daughter's married to the Burgundians, and then he's sworn loyalty to Kriemhild and Hungarians.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to try to summarize some of what happens next, but essentially the Burgundian knights and the kings come to King Etzel's court. And as they get there, they meet various knights and lords and kings of King Etzel's court, like Dietrich of Bern and others. And they meet, and they're all courteous to each other. But there's also a foreboding among some of these great men at Etzel's court because they know that Queen Kriemhild has been mourning Siegfried, and they think that she means ill by it, even though Etzel does not. Etzel has no idea that this is going on. For instance, Dietrich of Bern meets with Hagen privately and tells him, beware of yourself and your men. And Hagen says, what for? I'm trying to warn you, she's been crying about Siegfried every single day for the last 7 years. It bodes ill for you guys, and I'm trying to be your friend here. I don't want any bad things to happen between my men and yours. But I'm on the side of Etzel. I have to be. I'm his sworn knight, and I'm the sworn knight to this lady also.
oh man, so many poor men in this situation.
Yeah,
Just having to fight to the death
yeah,
because of a woman's tears.
yeah. This is exactly what I'm saying. Yes, women crying is not a reason to pass any legislation or vote anything into law or to do anything at all politically or militarily.
Yes.
Dietrich calls Kriemhild a devil's mistress. And whenever Kriemhild greets the Burgundians, Hagen looks at her and tightens his helmet, which is a signal letting her know, I'm ready for war, if that's what you intend. There's all these little subtle hints and cues that come about in this era of fine etiquette. Kriemhild tried a few times to defeat the Burgundians, and she failed 3 times that I can surmise in the story. When they first came, she saw that they were armed, and she asked them from her queenly state, from her queenly position, you all need to disarm and put your weapons in the armory here. And then Hagen said, we will not do such a thing. Defied her in front of all. The queen asks you this, it's her castle, it's her kingdom, you do it. They didn't do it. And she stormed off mad. The second time, Hagen and Volker, the minstrel, were sitting on a bench in the garden in front of the queen's castle or area or whatever it was. And they were both talking. And Volker is kind of like a Mercutio character. Mercutio is the friend of Romeo in Romeo and Juliet. He's neither a Capulet nor a Montague. The Capulets and the Montague have it out for each other, but Mercutio, he's just there for a good time, but he's also a fighter. He's the Joker card in poker or something. And Volker says, hey, how do you feel about what's going on? They're just kind of bantering and talking, and Hagen is giving these foreboding feelings, and Volker says, yeah, I kind of feel it too. It doesn't seem good. Well then, as they're talking, Kriemhild comes out of her castle area, and she's flanked and surrounded by 400 men or 600 men, knights armed with drawn swords, and they're walking towards them. And Volker says something casually, kind of lightheartedly, but also seriously. And he says, I don't think I've seen a woman walking towards people with lots of knights like that for good reasons. Perhaps we're in trouble. And Hagen says, it appears so. Something like that. But when you just read the story from Volker's mouth, though, you get this feeling that he is a great warrior. They call him the minstrel, almost like he is a lighthearted character of great power and devastation. Almost like it's hidden, his power. I told you this already, but I was in the military and we went to the desert one time, and before we went, we were trained for battle. We went through this month-long training session or whatever. And the guy who trained us was a special forces guy. He didn't say that though, but clearly he was. And he had long hair. He called himself John Fealty. That was probably not his real name. And he said, first day, he said, I'm John Fealty and I'm a janitor. And we were all like, what? What is going on? And he said, my job is to clean up. That's my job. And we all understood. Oh, gotcha. They send in John Fealty whenever the situation needs a cleaning. And we drew pictures of him in the desert on different places of John Fealty jumping out of a helicopter with a mop. You know, he's like, jumping out there, he's got a mop. Well, it's kind of the same thing here. Volker is the minstrel, and he plays music. He plays on his harp. That's what he does. But he's a great warrior. And so as Kriemhild walks up with these hundreds of knights with drawn swords, Hagen puts Balmung, Siegfried's sword, across his knees, and Kriemhild sees it. And she's just devastated. And he doesn't rise up for her. He won't rise and honor her, and she's furious. And Volker lays his fiddle across, or his harp across his knees to show he's ready for battle too. He's just, I care not what happens, but I am ready for battle. She's so offended, she has some words with him, offensive words, angry words, and she's hoping that her men attack these two and kill them. But the men notice who they are. That's Hagen, and they recount his deeds, his fame among them. And that's Volker, the minstrel. Oh no, he is, and they go on to say, these two men, we will not fight them. These hundreds of knights are afraid of these two men. They think that we can't overpower them. Just these two. It really does show you how powerful are these two men. That hundreds, it was either 4 or 6, I can't remember, of knights in their own territory are afraid of these two. And they turn around and won't fight them on behalf of Kriemhild. She's defeated again. At this point, Hagen and Volker realize we're in war. We're not here on a luxury cruise. We're in a military battle. We're in a camp right now. So they set up a guard that night. They set up a watch. They themselves hold the watch the whole night. All of the Burgundians were in a hall. That's where they were quartered in Etzel's kingdom. One big hall. And Gunther and Hagen and Volker stay up all night long and keep watch. Volker played music to put all his men asleep. And then he went out and watched. And in the night, they saw some men out there walking around in the bushes and trees and things. And they called to them. Volker called to them and said, hello men, what are you doing walking at night all armed? Are you going on an adventure? If so, we'd love to come too. And they got no answer. And then Volker knew, and he said, you cowards and treacherous traitors would slay men in their sleep. I wish I could find you now and slay you, or something like that. And still no answer. So then they knew they intend to kill us treacherously. If they can't confront us straightforwardly, they're going to kill us treacherously, and that's how it's going to happen. Treachery is going to be how this works out. The next day, as everybody woke up, they were supposed to go to church. Hagen told them all, wear your armor and your swords to church, which is not the custom. You don't go to church armed. But he said, you're fools if you don't. Because Gunther's like, what are you talking about, man? Everything's cool. And even Etzel, the whole time when things happen here, right in front and underneath their noses, they're thinking, what are you talking about? It's fine. Everything's fine. But of course, Hagen and Kriemhild look at each other because they tried to kill each other yesterday. But Etzel doesn't know that, and Gunther doesn't know that. And that's what I mean about the characters knowing and not knowing what's going on, and the drama and the tension in the scene, that's what's happening. They all go to church armed, and Kriemhild was there, and she came with her soldiers armed also, which means Hagen was right. If they would have come not armed, they would have been slaughtered. They came armed, and Etzel saw them and said, "What are you all armed for at church?" And Hagen said, "Oh, it's our custom when we hold feasts to show up to church armed." And he kept the peace. And Etzel's like, "Oh, haha, very good, very good." And he looks over at Kriemhild with her armed knights, and they're all like, ready to fight at any moment. But it's not funny. It's not a funny scene. Kriemhild does one last thing to try to provoke the war. She gets her son involved, Ortlieb. As they're holding a feast after church, Kriemhild brings Ortlieb to Etzel at the table in front of all the Burgundians. And Etzel, again, not knowing that there's any bad blood, he holds Ortlieb up and he says, "Look here, my heir. Perhaps one day when he grows up, he can come to Burgundy and be of service to all of you and help fight the enemies of Burgundy, because he is a son of Burgundy. He's half of your family and half of mine. Couldn't we?" And he's talking about building up each other's kingdoms and helping each other. But then Hagen, grim and ill-fated as he is, he says, "I doubt that this child will live long. He'll probably die a young death, and he'll be no leader of men, and I, for my part, won't follow him." He says that in front of the king, to the king, in front of everybody, and the king is shocked. And at that moment, he realizes things aren't all okay like I thought they were. I thought they were, but they weren't. And he begins to realize there's bad blood, and everybody remains silent. At that point, everybody goes silent, and it's like the calm before the storm. The clouds are now over you and behind you, and yet the storm hasn't broken yet, but the sky is dark and the light is gone, and the battle is just about to begin. Now, I won't go over the rest of the story because this is basically, it's war from here on. The war begins. The battle, it actually is a battle. Kriemhild convinces one man with his knights, one king with his knights, to go and attack the Burgundians, and he does, and starts the battle. And this portion of the book, it doesn't lead you to think any one side is more evil than the other, because both sides fight heroically. 5 or 7 chapters at this point of final last stands and great one-on-one battles with the best knights ever. And it's not like Thomas Mallory's book, where it's like, he was the most worshipful knight that ever did live. They actually describe why he was amazing.
Yeah, I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
You can't just take it at the word. Like, you need a little help in understanding why he was so great.
But people that already have background stories, like Rudiger comes, because he's a sworn knight to Kriemhild and to Etzel. And he's friends with these people, and he's godfather to one of them, or he's father-in-law to one of them now, but he has to come fight them. And he meets them and he cries, and they all cry, but then they fight each other. And it's epic Armageddon, apocalypse, nuclear fallout ending. It's not good at all. It's bad, bad, bad all the way down. But it's amazing last stands, like Volker and Hagen beside each other, like two wildcats fighting, but the other side too. And Kriemhild ends up wanting to burn the hall. She burns it, but the men survive it through some kind of amazing feats of struggling throughout the night and using blood. Like, they used so much blood had been spilled that they used blood to help them survive, like liquid, to help them put out the flames and survive the flames. Anyway.
That's grim.
Yeah. It's horrible. It's terrible. This whole thing ends with flames and burning and devastation. And I won't say who and all dies, but unlike the Arthurian tales, in this instance, entire kingdoms disappear. And not just like vanish into the night, they're killed. Yeah. They're slaughtered. All because of vengeance, which started out with trickery.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Kriemhild and Brunhild. Neither one of them could let go of their grievance.
Yeah.
You know, they sat on it, they ruminated on it. They would not let it go for decades. So I think that was a big cause. But Gunther bit off more than he could chew.
He did.
When he tried to go for Brunhild, and that was the start of all of it.
Yeah. It was.
And honestly, it's like I kind of understand Brunhild.
But Brunhild had ridiculous expectations. Some guy, she's super powerful.
Yeah.
And she wants some guy, like, she's not going to get married, essentially.
I think that was the idea. And then she gets duped.
But she
and
kills
finds
the
herself
guys.
married to someone who can't even overpower her. And she's like, hey. So, I mean, I kind of get that. So Gunther was
It's not
naughty.
fair if she gets to kill you if you lose the foot race.
I don't think she wanted it to be fair.
That's not fair. That's not fair. Okay. It is crazy to think that this is how it ends. Mm-hmm. When I first read this book, it didn't end how I was expecting, because I'm from the Anglo cultural tales. This book is in the opposite direction, far away from the English fairy tales, as Disney is from the fairy tales in the opposite direction. Mm-hmm. So what I mean is, Hans Christian Andersen tale of The Little Mermaid, it ends kind of tragically for her.
But there's hope.
But there's hope a little bit.
It's nice.
But the Disney fairy tale of Little Mermaid, it's romance and sugar and sweet and sappy.
And everything works out.
Everything works out. Well, just take that same ridiculous stretch, but in the opposite direction, and that's the German fairy tales. Mm. And this is a fairy tale, by the way. It's set in the world of Faerie, where there's dragons and dwarves and strong, superhuman strong women, and prophesying nymphs in the water and treasure that's cursed, and great tragedy, great beauty, great wealth, great knights. The knights that fight at the end here, it really is this amazing, tragic end. It's dramatic. That's the best way I could say it, because there's pleas, there's cries, there's tears, there's oaths. The men know that this is their end, but they don't necessarily want it, not because they're afraid, but because of the good things that could have been if not for this.
Yeah, that hurts to think.
And they try to stop it several times, but it's too late at this point, because all the men are gone except for 2 now that are still standing, and they don't want to live anymore because their whole kingdom's gone, so there's no purpose for them to live. So they just fight to the death.
Yeah, I see how that's similar to the Iliad. It's like all of this fighting, and the men themselves are sick of it and don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, all of this could have been stopped, you know,
Right.
like, there's all of these could haves. And
it's kind of like the Odyssey when Odysseus comes home and fights the suitors in the hall. He locks the hall up and fights them all, and it's a bloodbath. Except there were only 50 suitors that he fought, which is a lot. He and Telemachus and their swineherd fought these 50 suitors and killed them all. But this is one large hall, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of armed knights and kings. And it's this massive, massive, massive fight and bloodbath. This is a spoiler, if you don't want to find out how it ends. She basically, I forgot who, I think it's Dietrich of Bern, who had warned Hagen at the beginning and said, "This bodes ill. You shouldn't have come here, man. I'm sorry that you all came here." And many people said that, and he said that to Hagen. And Hagen is like, "Yeah, well, we're here, whatever." He ends up coming to the fight at the end, and he's fresh, and Hagen has been fighting valiantly, and so has Volker, and so has Gunther. They're holding their own, slaughtering many, but Dietrich's fresh. And he overcomes Hagen, wounds him, but doesn't kill him because he knows he's tired. It wouldn't be a fair fight at this point. And he does the same thing to Gunther. He binds them both. And he brings them to Kriemhild. And Kriemhild throws Gunther and Hagen in different jail cells. And she comes to Hagen and says, "Where's the Nibelung hoard? I want the Nibelung hoard." And he won't tell her, and he won't tell her, and he won't tell her. Finally, she goes and grabs Balmung and beheads him. And Hildebrand, one of Etzel's men, again, Hildebrand, Rudiger, Dietrich of Bern, all these men are kind of neutral. They like both sides. They want to be friends with both sides. Why can't we all? But Hildebrand sees, again, Hildebrand is King Etzel's man. But he sees Kriemhild behead Hagen, this valiant warrior with this massive reputation behind him, and he can't stand it, and he beheads Kriemhild in front of Etzel.
Wow. I mean, she did get to kill Hagen with Siegfried's sword.
She did. But he was bound and chained and in prison, and she beheaded him.
That's amazing. The loyalty among warriors, even enemy warriors, was stronger than the loyalty to a woman.
Yeah. Right.
The brotherhood of man.
Couldn't take it anymore. This one man had the courage to put a stop to this finally. This woman's wrath has destroyed all of the Burgundians. All of the Burgundians are dead at this point, except for Kriemhild's son with Siegfried.
Oh, back
he's still
in
alive. Yes,
Sigmund,
and
yeah.
Brunhild perhaps is still alive, and their son
Right.
that Gunther had with her. But we don't know if they are or aren't. We don't hear anything more about them. But even if they're still alive, there's no kingdom anymore. Everybody is dead at this point. Absolutely all of the Burgundians are dead. Everything's gone. And it was because this woman's vengeance drove it. These people came over here with goodwill. All of us we were marrying their daughters. We were getting together. And you destroyed this whole thing. You burned it down purposefully. And Hildebrand did the deed in front of Etzel. And as far as the story is concerned, Etzel didn't retaliate.
Okay, that's major. Because like you've been comparing them to the Arthurian tales this whole time. But I think what sticks out to me about this German tale is, again, just that loyalty between men, which means far more than their word to a woman. It's like it's separate planes or something. It's like, yeah, we'll be loyal to you, we'll serve you, we'll do all of these things, but at the end of the day, there's a stronger brotherhood of the men. Yeah, the great atrocity here,
greater than the men deceiving their women to get their women, or that was their deceiving, Gunther's deceiving Brunhild, etc. It's knights betraying each other. Among the knights, that was the most horrific thing that was happening everywhere.
Right.
Gunther and Hagen betrayed Siegfried, and these other knights betrayed each other and fought each other and deceived, and they tried to ally with each other because they know how important it is, but then they end up fighting each other anyway, and it's just such tragedy.
Wow, yeah, that line from Giselher where he's like, yeah, women are easily upset. Like, that would not have happened in the Arthurian tales.
Yeah.
Because an upset woman is the biggest problem.
She's God.
Yes,
she is God.
Yes, but in the
her
German
feelings
tales,
are the voice of God.
Yes.
Yeah, in the Arthurian, English, French romances, and in Western Christianity, the woman's feelings are the voice of God. She's God's voice to you to tell you if you're being a good husband or if you're making the right decisions. You need to listen to the voice of your wife in all of these matters and not trust your own decisions. Yeah. Lean upon the wisdom of your wife and not upon your own ways. Right.
Well, it's just amazing, though, the ending there. Etzel can see this happen, and he's kind of like, that's fair. Like, he just...
No, he weeps. He weeps. Dietrich weeps, but they don't retaliate against
that's
Hildebrand.
what I mean. Yeah, he can mourn his wife.
Yeah.
But he can also see the justice in it.
Yeah.
I don't think that ever would have happened in the Arthurian tales.
Right. This is very Germanic, and this is why when I first read it, I thought this is a critique against the French and English notions of chivalry and gender dynamics and manhood and womanhood and all this stuff. It's a critique. I think it is. It might not be, because back then, are they really critiquing each other? Maybe not. But the story itself, compared to it, offers a completely different perspective. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this content, please consider supporting the show by subscribing at arslibri.substack.com. Your support enables me to produce this content. Subscribers also get bonus episodes, detailed book lists, and more.